The Shadowed Orphanage. In a small, forgotten town, nestled in the valley of jagged mountains, there stood an abandoned orphanage named Blackwood Haven. Its haunting silhouette against the gray skies was a constant reminder of the tragic past it bore. The townsfolk avoided the place, weaving whispered warnings to their children about the shadows that moved within the building, even during the day. The story follows Ethan, a young urban explorer and amateur historian who arrives in the town to document forgotten places. While at a local diner, he overhears an old man telling a chilling tale about Blackwood Haven. The orphanage, he says, was shut down abruptly in 1954 after the mysterious disappearance of 12 children in a single night. What caught Ethan's attention was a piece of folklore the man shared. The place wasn't just abandoned, it was cursed. Anyone who entered Blackwood Haven after sunset would hear faint giggles and whispers, the ghostly echoes of the lost children. Some claimed to have seen shadows darting across windows or heard the soft creak of rocking chairs. No one stayed there for more than a few hours without fleeing in terror. Against warnings from the locals, Ethan decides to visit Blackwood Haven, armed with his camera, flashlight, and a small notebook. As the sun begins to set, he makes his way up the broken stone path leading to the orphanage. The heavy iron gates creak open as if inviting him in. The inside of the orphanage is eerily preserved. Small wooden chairs scattered in the dining hall, toys lying abandoned in the nursery, and faded paintings of children on the walls. As Ethan explores, he starts to notice unsettling things. A rocking chair in the corner of the nursery sways slightly, though there's no wind. A faint whisper calls his name from a hallway he hasn't yet entered. In the basement, Ethan stumbles upon a room that looks recently disturbed. Old yellowed papers are scattered on the floor, with drawings of strange symbols and children's names written over and over again. On the wall is a large, crude mural of 12 faceless children holding hands in a circle, with a shadowy figure towering over them. His camera captures something he cannot see with his eyes. Faint figures of children in the frame, their heads tilted, watching him. The whispers grow louder, now forming distinct words. "Play with us." Ethan realizes he isn't alone. As he tries to leave the basement, the door slams shut. Footsteps echo behind him, though no one is there. His flashlight flickers, revealing glimpses of small, pale faces peeking from behind corners. The sound of giggles turns into cries, and the once static mural begins to move. The children's faceless heads slowly turning to look at him. Desperate to escape, Ethan finds a hidden passage leading deeper into the building. There, he discovers a journal belonging to the orphanage's last caretaker. It reveals a horrifying truth. The orphanage was used as a front for occult practices, where the children were sacrificed to summon an entity known as the Shadow Mother. The ritual, however, went wrong. The Shadow Mother took the children but left their spirits trapped, forever tied to Blackwood Haven. Now they seek to lure others into their eternal nightmare. Ethan's fight for survival intensifies as the spirits grow hostile. Objects are hurled across rooms, doors slam shut behind him, and the Shadow Mother begins to manifest. A towering figure of writhing darkness with glowing, hollow eyes. Ethan manages to find an old key hidden in the caretaker's journal, which he uses to unlock the main doors. As he stumbles out into the night, the building seems to shudder, as if angry to let him go. The whispers turn to screams, and the orphanage's windows light up with an eerie glow before going dark once more. Ethan leaves the town, vowing never to return. However, when he reviews the footage on his camera, he sees the faces of the 12 children staring back at him, their whispers faintly audible. "You'll come back. You promised to play with us." Ethan had sworn never to go back to Blackwood Haven, but the footage he captured wouldn't let him move on. For weeks, the faint whispers of the children haunted him every time he watched the video. Their pale faces seemed to change every time he paused the frames, smiling one moment, frowning the next. The final whisper from the tape echoed in his mind every night. "You'll come back. You promised to play with us." Ethan tried to convince himself it was all psychological, but the nightmares were too vivid. He would wake up drenched in sweat, hearing the creaking sound of a rocking chair or the faint giggles of children in the dark corners of his apartment. Determined to find closure, he decided to return to Blackwood Haven, this time better prepared. Ethan researched everything he could about the orphanage. Hidden in the archives of the town's library, he discovered an old police report that mentioned a series of disappearances linked to Blackwood Haven. Even after it was abandoned, people, urban explorers like him, vagrants and thrill-seekers, vanished without a trace. The last report mentioned a local priest who tried to cleanse the building but disappeared during the ritual. Ethan also uncovered a chilling fact. The orphanage was built on land, once used by a cult, known as the Children of the Shadow Mother. Their doctrine revolved around sacrificing the innocent to summon their deity. The spirits of the sacrificed children were believed to be offerings that kept the Shadow Mother bound to this world. Ethan knew he couldn't face this alone. He reached out to an online group of paranormal investigators and convinced two of them, Sarah and Damien, to join him. Sarah was a medium, able to sense and communicate with spirits, while Damien specialized in occult artifacts. As the trio approached the orphanage under the cover of twilight, the air grew heavier. The iron gates, rusted but eerily intact, swung open on their own. Sarah felt an immediate presence. "They know we're here," she whispered. Inside, the orphanage felt alive. Shadows moved unnaturally, and the faint scent of burning wax lingered in the air. Damien used his equipment to detect electromagnetic anomalies. "This place is a hot spot. Whatever's here is strong," he said nervously. In the basement, Sarah's abilities were put to the test. The spirits of the children tried to communicate with her, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of cries and whispers. "They're scared," Sarah said. "They don't want to hurt us, but they can't control her." Damien discovered a hidden compartment in the wall containing old ritual artifacts, a blood-stained dagger, black candles, and a book of summoning spells written in Latin. Among the items was a single, chilling entry, a ritual to banish the Shadow Mother. But it required an impossible price. A life must be willingly sacrificed to take the place of the children. As they prepared to leave with the artifacts, the orphanage began to change. The walls seemed to breathe, and the shadows solidified, blocking their path. The giggles of children turned into blood-curdling screams, and a cold, dark fog began to seep into the room. Sarah collapsed, clutching her head. "She's here," she screamed, her voice almost drowned by the growing cacophony. The Shadow Mother began to materialize, a towering figure of pure darkness, her eyes glowing like dying embers. Her presence was suffocating, pressing down on them like a vice. Ethan and Damien tried to drag Sarah out, but the entity wouldn't let them leave. The children's spirits surrounded them, their faces twisted in torment. Sarah managed to channel their voices. "You have to free us. She won't let us go unless she's stopped." Damien desperate, began reciting the banishment ritual from the book. As he chanted, the Shadow Mother screamed, her form writhing and splitting apart. But halfway through, Damien froze. The final words required a sacrifice. "It's the only way," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "One of us has to stay." Ethan refused to let anyone sacrifice themselves, but Sarah knew there was no other way. "I've felt their pain," she said, tears streaming down her face. "If this is what it takes to free them, so be it." Before Ethan or Damien could stop her, Sarah completed the ritual. The children's spirits began to glow, their forms turning into light that filled the room. The Shadow Mother screamed one last time before disintegrating into ash. As the light faded, Sarah was gone. The orphanage fell silent, its oppressive atmosphere lifting. Ethan and Damien stumbled out, shaken and grieving. The iron gates slammed shut behind them, sealing Blackwood Haven once more. Months later, Ethan tried to move on, but the scars remained. He released his footage online, sharing the story of Blackwood Haven and Sarah's sacrifice. The video went viral, drawing the attention of thrill seekers and skeptics alike. One night, Ethan received an email from an unknown sender. It contained a single video file. When he opened it, his blood ran cold. It was footage from the orphanage, new footage. Shadows moved through the halls, and at the end of the clip, Sarah's voice whispered, "It's not over, Ethan. She's not gone." The screen went black, and Ethan felt the chilling touch of a hand on his shoulder. Ethan's heart raced as he replayed the email's video file. The voice was unmistakable. It was Sarah. He froze when the video ended, but the chilling hand he felt on his shoulder had vanished when he turned around. His apartment was empty, yet the temperature had dropped noticeably, and faint giggles echoed in the distance. Haunted by the realization that the Shadow Mother's presence might not have been fully banished, Ethan reached out to Damien. Together they decided to seek the help of experts in the paranormal to uncover the truth behind Sarah's warning. She's not gone. Ethan and Damien connected with a well-known group of paranormal investigators called the Spectral Order. This team specialized in dealing with cursed locations and unresolved hauntings. The leader, Dr. Amelia Carter, was an occult historian with experience in dealing with ancient rituals. Dr. Carter reviewed Ethan's footage and Sarah's message. The Shadow Mother is an entity that feeds on despair. She doesn't truly die. She adapts. Your actions might have weakened her, but as long as the land holds her connection, she'll find a way back, she explained. To permanently sever the Shadow Mother's link to this world, they would need to perform a counter-ritual. Unlike the original banishment, this ritual required destroying the source of her power, a hidden relic known as the Obsidian Heart. According to legend, this artifact was buried somewhere within the orphanage. Ethan, Damien, and Dr. Carter's team returned to Blackwood Haven, equipped with advanced tools for spirit detection and protective charms. This time, the orphanage seemed even more menacing. Its once crumbling walls appeared to have restored themselves, and strange symbols now adorned the exterior. The team split up to cover more ground, a decision they would soon regret. Each group encountered disturbing manifestations. Ethan and Dr. Carter heard Sarah's voice calling to them from the nursery, where rocking chairs swayed on their own. Damien and two investigators felt unseen hands pulling at their clothing as they explored the basement. Ethan's group discovered a journal belonging to the cult leader who once ran the orphanage. The journal described the creation of the Obsidian Heart, a black pulsating stone said to contain the essence of the Shadow Mother. The journal also revealed that the relic was hidden in the Room of Shadows, a place so cursed that even the cultists feared it. The team regrouped and located the entrance to the Room of Shadows behind a hidden door in the basement. The air inside was thick with darkness, making it difficult to see even with flashlights. The walls were covered in claw marks, and the faint sound of children sobbing echoed throughout the room. In the center of the room they found an altar. Resting atop it was the obsidian heart, glowing faintly and pulsating as though alive. As soon as they approached, the room came alive with malevolent energy. Shadows slithered along the walls, forming grotesque shapes that lunged at the group. The Shadow Mother's voice boomed from the darkness. "You cannot take what is mine. Leave or join her." The team struggled to hold their ground as the entity began to manifest again, this time more powerful than before. Dr. Carter instructed everyone to hold their positions while she began the counter-ritual, reading from a book of ancient incantations. As the ritual progressed, the Shadow Mother's attacks grew more aggressive. Ethan and Damien fought to protect Dr. Carter, using salt lines and protective charms to hold back the encroaching shadows. The obsidian heart throbbed violently, as if resisting the ritual. Suddenly, the spirit of Sarah appeared. Unlike before, she looked calm and resolute. "Ethan," she said, her voice echoing, "this isn't just her prison. It's mine too. To destroy the heart, you must let go of me. Let me go." Ethan hesitated, tears streaming down his face. "I can't lose you again." Sarah smiled sadly. "You've already lost me. This is the only way." With trembling hands, Ethan picked up the obsidian heart. It burned his skin, sending waves of despair and fear through him. Summoning all his strength, he smashed the artifact against the altar. The room erupted in chaos. The Shadow Mother screamed, her form disintegrating into shards of darkness that dissolved into the air. The orphanage trembled as if it would collapse, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The team escaped just as the orphanage began to crumble, leaving nothing but ruins behind. For the first time in decades, the land felt at peace. Ethan looked back one last time and saw Sarah's spirit standing among the rubble, smiling before fading into the light. Though the Shadow Mother was gone, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that remnants of her presence might still linger. A final note in the cult leader's journal had warned, "Evil never truly dies. It only waits." As Ethan drove away with the team, he couldn't help but wonder if Blackwood Haven's story was truly over, or if it was just the beginning of something far darker. The destruction of Blackwood Haven should have been the end of the nightmare. But for Ethan, peace remained elusive. Weeks after the orphanage crumbled, he began noticing small, unsettling signs that the ordeal wasn't entirely over. Objects in his apartment would move without explanation. He often felt watched, and his dreams were filled with images of the orphanage's ruins, glowing faintly under the moonlight. One night, he received a package in the mail. Inside was a small, blackened shard of stone. He recognized it immediately, a fragment of the obsidian heart. Attached was a note with no signature. "The shadow waits." Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan returned to the town near the orphanage ruins. To his surprise, the townsfolk seemed uneasy, avoiding him and refusing to speak of Blackwood Haven. The air of secrecy was thicker than ever. At the local library, Ethan dug deeper into the cult's history. He discovered that Blackwood Haven wasn't the cult's only stronghold. Hidden deep in the mountains was another site, a place referred to in the journal as the Well of Shadows. The text suggested that while the obsidian heart was destroyed, its power might have been transferred to this secondary location. The librarian, an older woman who had lived in the town her entire life, finally broke her silence. "You shouldn't go there," she warned, her voice trembling. "The shadow isn't just a presence, it's alive, and it's hungry." Ethan couldn't ignore the possibility that the Shadow Mother still existed. Gathering a small team, including Damien and Dr. Carter, he set out to find the Well of Shadows. The journey into the mountains was treacherous. The path was overgrown, and the group felt an unnatural chill as they neared the site. When they reached the location, they found an ancient stone structure hidden within a dense forest. The building resembled a temple, its entrance marked by strange symbols carved into the stone. The symbols matched those from the orphanage, confirming this was another place of power for the cult. Inside, the group discovered a circular chamber with a deep, dark pit in the center, the Well of Shadows. The air around it seemed to pulse with malevolence. As they approached, they heard whispers rising from the depths. The group realized that the well wasn't just a remnant of the cult's activities. It was a portal, a gateway through which the Shadow Mother could regain her strength. Damien found markings on the walls that detailed a ritual designed to close the well permanently, but it required immense energy that could only come from a living soul willingly sacrificing themselves. As they debated their options, the whispers grew louder, and shadows began to rise from the pit. The Shadow Mother's voice echoed through the chamber. "You cannot stop me. I am eternal. You destroyed my heart, but you will never destroy my will." The shadows took form, manifesting as twisted versions of the children's spirits from Blackwood Haven. Their hollow eyes stared at Ethan, accusing him of abandoning them. The sight filled him with guilt, but Dr. Carter reminded him that these were mere puppets of the Shadow Mother, meant to manipulate him. Damien, overcome with guilt and fear, volunteered to complete the ritual. "It's my turn to make things right," he said, clutching the ritual book tightly. As he began the incantation, the Shadow Mother unleashed her full fury. The chamber shook violently, and the shadows attacked relentlessly. Ethan and Dr. Carter fought to protect Damien, using the protective charms they had brought. The battle was brutal, and the group began to falter as the Shadow Mother's form started to rise from the pit. In a moment of desperation, Ethan made a decision. He pushed Damien aside and took his place at the center of the ritual. "This ends with me," he said firmly. Ignoring Damien's protests, Ethan completed the incantation. The well began to collapse, and the Shadow Mother let out an ear-piercing scream. The shadows dissolved, and the pit closed as a blinding light filled the chamber. Ethan's body was consumed by the energy, and he disappeared as the Well of Shadows was sealed forever. Dr. Carter and Damien escaped the collapsing temple, devastated by Ethan's sacrifice. Months later, Damien received a letter with no return address. Inside was a single photo of Blackwood Haven's ruins, now overgrown with wildflowers. On the back of the photo, written in Ethan's handwriting, were the words, "It's over. Thank you." Though the Shadow Mother was finally defeated, her legacy remained, a chilling reminder that evil could never be fully erased, only contained. Ethan's sacrifice ensured peace, but the question lingered: for how long?